Hi, this is MindoPod with another episode of Samurai Siege University. So if you've been following along with our course of study and you've understood which troops are most effective against the assassin's den, and you've understood the consequences of not paying attention to where the dens are and how important it is to bring them out first, your next thing to do is to begin to really develop an eye for where the assassin's dens might be before you begin your assault on a new base. Here's a great example of a classic base we often see. When you look closely at this base, you'll notice that it's very tight and consolidated. When you look inside the walls, you don't see any openings or any unaccounted for space. That immediately tells us that whatever assassin's dens there are have to be outside of the walls. And because this is a Castle 6, we also immediately know that it's going to have no more than 2 assassin's dens. Now remember, you may not always see all 2 because the person may not have refilled the dens with essence, so they might have them, but they may not be active at all. But at most, you'll know that you don't have any more than 2 dens to take care of with a Castle 6. So let's go ahead and see how easy it is to flush those out. So I begin by dropping a few archers around the right side there and immediately pull out an assassin's den and enliven an ice jade lion. So my archers begin to pick that off, and I think that I've taken it out, so I go ahead and work on the other sides as well. And on the left side, I bring out the other assassin's den and enliven the other ice jade lion, and my archers are working that. Now here's an advantage to using this scattered approach around the outside. Notice the lion that's on the right side still. My initial troops did not take it out, but because I only still had a few troops around the outside, that jade lion was attracted to those archers down in the bottom corner. And I can still pick it off in an isolated way without getting in the way of other troops. At this point, the coast is clear and I can bring in the full force of my troops. So now let's consider this base we're thinking of attacking. We ask ourselves, where are the assassin's dens likely to be located? And right away we see 2 trouble spots that are somewhat buried inside the wall. One here and the other here. We may be able to get to those by taking out the buildings in front of them and then trying to get closer with archers, but they both have defensive towers close to them that may immobilize us before we can get in there and trigger those. So when I'm faced with a base like this, the approach I take is to know that I can't necessarily bring in all my troops all at once at the beginning, because some of them may be really impacted by the assassin's dens that I'll meet during the course of the raid. So I bring them in stages. And of course, because the Alliance portal is isolated by itself over on the side, I'll start with that to draw those troops out. So we'll speed this up and watch. I'm taking out the Alliance portal and bringing troops in still around, looking just in case those dens are somewhere else. But then I say, okay, let's just go for it. But I bring in only part of my troops. And sure enough, when we get to this point, we see that both assassin's dens are right where we thought they might be. But because my troops are spread out, they're able to handle them without being concentrated in the crossfires of them. So we take those out little by little, and then we're able to polish off the rest of this base without too much trouble. So here's another base. Here's the thinking I employ when I size this base up. I see that there's a gap over here on the right side by the archer towers that may contain 1 or 2 dens. Remember, a den is slightly smaller than an archer tower, so it could fit in here. I also see a gap over on the left side here, but notice there's a single wall there. So that means that it's too small a space for a dent to fit in, so I'm not worried about that. Another place that we frequently find people hiding dents is in slots, like we see in the upper corner of the base here. If you ever see a slot between things, check that out as a place where an assassin den might be lurking. As it turned out, this was an easy base to pick off because they had located both assassins' dens right next to each other, right next to the jade lions in front of the castle. So all I had to do was drop one troop in that spawn hole that was right in front of it, and it pulled all 4 trouble spots away where I could deal with it easily. And because it's a Castle 8, I know that there are only 2 dens, so I'm out of trouble right there. Again, having woken the dens and the lions up, I lure them out into the corner with a slow troop like a samurai or a oni troll and pick them off in a group like that, and then I can attack the base. So if you want to become the master of assassin's dens, there are 2 more suggestions. The first is to watch all of the replays of your battles before you leave that replay behind. Make sure that you remember and understand where those assassin's dens were. Sometimes a battle takes place so fast that we don't pay attention to that, but sock that information away for future reference with each base that you attack. The second tip is to spend a little bit of time reviewing the bases of the other members of your own alliance. If you go visit the base of a member of another alliance, not your own, you cannot see their assassins' dens. They're hidden to you. But all the members of your own alliance, you can go visit and you can see exactly where their assassins' dens are. And in your mind's eye, paint out that den and imagine it as an empty space in that base, because you're seeing it now exposed, but when you go attack it, it'll just look like grass or desert and you won't be able to see it. So we hope that this has helped you master assassin's dens.